When I've asked clients of mine who their ideal patients are, who do they seek to attract more of, I typically get one of three response types, which is the first being anyone who needs a dentist is an ideal patient. The second is a demographic description, so their age, their gender, their income, their zip code. And the third is describing the patient by the types of insurance that they have. And so what I find is that most practices operate without really being clear on what kinds of patients they want to attract. So it's almost like doing a project without understanding what the goal is. And so in this video, I want to help you get very clear with how to identify your ideal patient. So let's first address the anyone who needs a dentist is a patient of ours. Let's address that. Today, people's beliefs and desires are more diverse than ever before. People want different things, and especially accelerated by the things like internet, where you can have more communities. But now we want more different things. We're very diverse. So when we say anyone who needs a dentist is an ideal patient, how can we start to design our practice in order to attract them better? When the group of people that we're targeting have so diverse interests that if we try to appeal to all of them, what we end up doing is we end up appealing very shallowly to everyone. So the better approach might be to focus on a more specific group who share beliefs about what is good and bad. And when we do that, we're able to create something much more concrete that resonates deeply with that smaller group of people, but large enough that they will be able to sustain you. But again, specificity here is one of the fundamentals of what we need to start with. All right, so anyone who needs a dentist is an ideal patient just doesn't work out. What ends up happening is you end up attracting no one in particular. All right, so let's go into the demographic descriptions. So we can have two patients, one who share the exact same demographic attributes: age, gender, income, location. Yet one can show up and just like shop around for prices and end up not becoming a patient of yours. And another can be a great patient of yours. And what was different wasn't the demographics, it was psychographics. It was what was going on in their head, the psychology of those two individuals. So while demographics tells us who a person is, psychographics will tell us how they behave, how they make decisions. All right, so this is much more valuable for us. And we can kind of lump insurance into demographic attributes as well. So for example, if you're a pediatric dentist, then you're primarily going to be bound in the realm of a demographic attribute, meaning age. And if you're in the insurance game, then you're bound in the realm of insurance. But even within that realm, we have divergent beliefs. And the question is, which beliefs do we want to serve best? So what are the 5 beliefs? And I've identified 5 core beliefs that affect how people make decisions when it comes to dentistry. The first is going to be value. Things like, what are their principles? What do they hold themselves up to? What are their standards? Right? What are their values? And the second is going to be their identity. Who do they believe they are? What type of people do they want to associate with and be seen as? And then we have cost. So how do they weigh how they spend money? How do they believe something is a good decision? And then we have avoidance. What is something they fear? What is something that they don't want more? They want to absolutely avoid. And then finally, the 5th core belief is going to be health. How do they relate to their own health? Is this something they're proactive about? Is there something they're very reactive and only do when it's urgent? Do they trust doctors? And so on and so forth. So these 5 core beliefs are the foundation of the ideal patient. When you see someone who shares these 5 core beliefs and you design a practice for it, you're able to attract those people. And those ideal patients of yours who share those beliefs will come because you have designed something specifically for them that the rest of the market, who are busy copying each other and following the leader, aren't serving as well as you are. All right, so this is the secret to attracting more ideal patients. It's not running some ad that says you're this when and they show up and it turns out you're just like everyone else, and so they leave actually a little bit disappointed. It's none of those tactical stuff. It's fundamentally changing your practice. Like as they say, if you change who you are, you will get the result. This is the same concept in the practice. You can't just have the same practice, do some tactics, and expect to suddenly start getting more attraction with the people you seek to attract. You have to fundamentally change who you are as a practice to become attractive for the other people. Then you can start leveraging tactics like advertising or whatever visibility methods to create that connection. But if the attraction wasn't there in the first place, no matter how much publicity, how many blog posts you make, it won't matter. All right. So unlike the other practices who are operating without an idea of who they want to attract, you have the opportunity to really figure out not just who it is, but like their beliefs. And from those beliefs, everything stems from that. Every intentional design that you make in your practice is to fulfill those beliefs and to align with them. Right? So in practice, how can we do this? Well, a good place to start is to think of 3 to 5 past patients of yours who you really enjoyed serving, who they came in, everything was seamless, and you would just love to have that kind of person. If you could multiply that person 100 times, you would do that, right? So 3 to 5 people who fit that criteria. And from those 3 people or 3 to 5 people, look at the patterns in context of those 5 core beliefs. So what are the similar patterns around value, identity, cost, avoidance, and health, right? Extract that and find out what's common among all the ideal patients that you chose. And now you have the 5 core beliefs of ideal patients. And if you look at the market, so in our exercise, what we do is we put those 5 beliefs into an AI, have it look at a radius of 10 miles around your practice and estimate how many people share those beliefs. And what we typically find is there's probably north of 50,000, if not 100,000 people who share those beliefs. And you only probably need 1,000 of them. So that's like 1 or 2% of the available population. And so imagine if you can do the work of creating very deep resonance with those individuals, and think of how much more attractive that makes you and how much opportunity there is. And so when we operate without understanding what our goal is or who we want to attract, no wonder we have such a hard time attracting people. All right, so figure out who your ideal patient is. Think of those people in the past who you really enjoyed serving and you would love to see more of. And that's very important because we want to fill your office. We want to create a practice for you that is fulfilling for you and not filled with patients that you hate working with, right? So those 3 to 5 people you really enjoyed working with, what patterns of belief are there? Extract those and let that be the foundation for how you design the rest of your practice. And if you want to learn more about what's involved in that exact implementation and the design of the practice, we're still working on the course. I'm almost done with it, scripting it now. But yeah, I'll have some videos out about that very soon. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.